Well, happy August, y'all. It is that time of the month again that we get to talk about our August housing market update. And I love doing these monthly updates because it keeps you informed about what's going on in the real estate market. I live and breathe this every day, honestly, too many hours of the day sometimes. But I want to share what I'm seeing with you so that you can make informed decisions about the real estate market, because the real estate market is local, okay? And so in this video, I really want to talk about, are we seeing the summer slump being over? And I say summer slump because we really have seen a slump this summer. And so we want to talk about supply and demand and what sellers need to know, what buyers need to know, but also what's going to happen with the interest rates. All right, so stick around to the video. All right, so fun fact real fast. I'm here at Monticello in Charlottesville because I have a closing in Charlottesville right now. And so I thought I'd come out here and hang out for a minute. But did you know Thomas Jefferson actually started the first custom home build trend, right? Yeah, pretty amazing. So I didn't have time to actually go up to the house today, but anyways, fun fact. Hey, let's now talk about the real estate market. So if you were to say, hey, Sean, explain the real estate market in general to me, I'd say, all right, awesome. The real estate market is 3 Ps right now. It is all about price, it's all about presentation, and it's all about patience. You got to have those 3. If you're buying based upon price, presentations, and you're having a little bit of patience because not all the homes are presenting the way you want it to. And if you're selling a house, you got to really nail the price, the presentation, and have patience. So let's jump into really, I think, maybe our first question. And the first question is, what is the supply and demand? You and I know that supply and demand is always the primary factor in regards to the real estate market. So what's going on? So let's look at this. What is going on with supply and demand? So as we see right now, available on the market, there's 2,259 homes on the market. This time last month, we had 2,153. So we had almost a 5% increase in inventory. And if you go back to my video from last month, you will actually see that we had a substantial increase in inventory. And so we still see that trend. And we've seen that trend really over the last 5 months. Every month, we have more inventory than the previous month. And so, of course, we'll talk about that. Now, under contract, this is like, hey, how many buyers are out there? Are they buying the homes that are coming to the market? Well, we had 1,437 homes go under contract this last 30 days, which is almost 9% less than last month. And y'all, last month, we were less than the previous month. So we see inventory increasing and we see fewer homes going under contract. So supply and demand would say our supply is increasing and the demand is decreasing. Sold in the last 30 days, again, we had about 3% less sales this last month than the month before. So when we look at this, we say, wow, that means supply is going up and demand is going low. Well, wait a minute, that is caution, caution, caution. Does that mean prices are going to go crazy down? Well, we haven't necessarily seen that, but we have seen more contributions towards seller concessions, which we'll talk about. But when we look at this sold or months of inventory, currently at the moment, we have 1.9 months of inventory. Yes, that is up from last month. Last month it was up from the previous month, and so we see a trend. Our inventory is increasing every single month, which means we have more or a higher months of inventory. So 1.9, what that means is if every single home actually on the market right this second sold, it would take 1.9 months for every single home to sell. And the reality is that's still not bad historically. We are actually protected in our little current market here locally that we don't have a influx of inventory versus DC, who might have 6 months of inventory right now. But I do think we are still feeling the effects of higher inventory and less demand. Look at this graph. I thought this was fascinating when I saw this. So this graph right here actually shows us the estimated number of U.S. home buyers and sellers actively in the housing market. So in June, In June, look at this, where we are. This is crazy. June 2025. We actually have over 500,000 more sellers on the market than we have buyers in the market. So nationally, over 500,000 more sellers than buyers in the market. But when you look back and you trace all the way back to June 2013, this is the highest recorded gap we've had since this recording. So maybe there was higher gaps before 2013, but since 2013, this is the highest gap. So what does that mean? More inventory is out there than buyers that are shopping. So even though we have 1.9 months of inventory, which is actually good, the reality is there's less buyers. And that is one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing in the market. Less buyers, and they're picky, okay? And they're picky. So let's talk about this one question, expectations. What are your expectations if you were going to be selling your home? What expectations should you have? And so when we look at the statistics here, guys, we see average days on the market. So if you're going to put your home on the market this last month, average days on the market was 46 days. Median days was 25 days on the market. Now that's about a 4.5% increase from the month prior. So we are statistically seeing every month homes are taking a little bit longer to sell. You need to have patience, right? Higher price point homes are going to be taking a little bit longer often than lower price point homes, but the average is 46 and the median is 25 days on the market. Average showings is kind of staying right around 3. Okay, so we had 3 last month. Technically, this last month we had, or the month prior, this last month we had 2.99% showings. So when you look at 3 showings per week, that's not bad. Though if you kind of say, wait a minute, but inventory is increasing, right? There's more homes to look at, and you're still having 3 homes per showing. That tells you a lot about the buying market. The buyers, they want to see everything. The average buyer is looking at anywhere from 6 to 9 homes before they actually put an offer on the home. Buyers aren't just jumping on houses every single second. They want to make sure they're getting the best house. And so as sellers, you got to be ready for the competition. But remember, patience, price, presentation, and patience. List to close price is something that I see that has just radically not changed substantially. You would assume if high inventory and lower demand, the prices would be lower, right? But that's not actually what we see. This last month, the list to close price was 100%. And so the last month it was 100.4%. So yeah, maybe we're down a little bit, though sellers are kind of getting what they ask for. And so as a buyer, you need to be prepared for that as well. So the question, though, that I asked was what to expect as a seller. And so what to expect as a seller is average days on market. You need to be prepared, be patient. Average showings, just know they're going to be shopping and looking at all the other inventory that's on the market. And know that if you price it right, you should get pretty close to what you're getting. And I see that either because sellers are having to do price corrections, and so they're still getting whatever they corrected the price to, or they're getting what they initially put the price on the market for. So we don't see buyers coming in to your listings saying, hey, I'll give you $50,000 less. That's not today's current market. So if you're a seller and wondering, why isn't someone just giving me an offer? Well, it's because buyers are going to homes, and when they see that price, they're assuming you want that price. So price it right. If you price it right, you're going to actually get the best activity and buyers giving you what you're asking. So supply and demand, we talked about expectations of listing your home. Here's just the last thing I would say for a seller in today's market as we look at this, as we look at these statistics, is buyers don't want to pay top price, pay their own closing costs, and have to put carpet in the house. Okay, so when I say price, presentation, and patience, presentation really matters right now, and it's been increasing. So when you think of presentation, make sure you are doing the work needed to get the cosmetics done in the home. You kind of heard, maybe you've said it before, well, why would I change the carpet if the buyers want to be able to put their own stuff in? Or why would I put countertops as the very first day they come in, they rip them out and they, put new ones in? Well, here's why, because you want to sell your house. That's why you do it. Okay, right now, buyers are not wanting to pay their own closing costs. They're not wanting to put carpet and paint houses. And so the houses that are presenting the best and that are moving, actually selling, are the ones that are truly move-in ready. I'm not talking about like crazy upgrades, but upgrades. Okay, so make sure you spend that time not spending money in the wrong places, but spending money in the right places. Okay, that's where real estate agents are really helpful in your world, to let you know where that actually is. So presentation really, really, really matters in today's market, because buyers are picky. But if you are one of these picky buyers, what should you expect if you jump into the market? Well, like I said, prices, well, they haven't really gone down. So don't have your expectation to come in and just get a crazy deal. Now, there are deals. There are deals, okay? I just had a buyer go under contract, and the buyer or a seller accepted $100,000 lower. Now, we were kind of in the 1.2 million, range, but they took $100,000 lower, right? It was incredible. So there are deals out there, though you can't go in with that expectation. So go into the expectations 100% is the listed close price, but also know that sellers are giving seller contribution now, which is good for you. So closing costs, you might be able to get them paid for. You might be able to get your buyer agent compensations fully paid for by the seller. So this is good for you in the buyer market. And I know you're going to ask this one question, but should I wait longer for the interest rates to actually come down? And my answer is no way, Jose. All right, it's not worth the wait. It's not worth the wait. So let's ask this next question. What's going on with the interest rates? Okay, what's going on with the interest rates? Well, here's what's kind of cool, is today's interest rate is the lowest it's been in 10 months. So that's good news if you're shopping right now. It's the lowest it's been in 10 months. 11 months ago, it was the lowest, actually at 6.11, and today it's at 6.58. Okay, so that's what we're seeing right now. Now, there's a lot of excitement and hype right now about the interest rates. We know that the Feds did not lower the interest rate in July. They're not expected to do anything in August, and the hope is that there will be 2 more interest rates that are lowered over the year. So that means the hope is in September will be the very first decrease. And that's what I think we're all hoping for right there, okay? So we are hoping that there will be a decrease, but we also see the administration is wanting the rates to lower. Now that matters, right? Because if they're wanting it, eventually it might happen. Okay, eventually it might happen, especially if you're following the politics of what the administration is actually looking to do, to be able to have someone else in there that's actually enforcing that a little bit more. But because the interest rates have lowered, we see momentum. We see momentum in more applications. So in the last 2 months, we actually had the higher amount of mortgage applications come in. Not as many are buying houses, though, as we looked at, right? But more applications are coming in. So this gives us hope for the fall. I think buyer consumer confidence is higher, GDP is up, consumer spending is up. There's a lot of buyer confidence, even though the interest rates aren't crazy low, they want to buy houses. And so especially if we see a interest rate decrease in September, as they're talking about, we might have a very strong fall for sellers and for buyers, so because their mortgages might actually be a little bit less. So that's what I think you can expect for interest rates. Don't expect massive change, but do expect it might go a little bit lower, but nothing to wait for, okay? But it's going to create all of these buyers to get back out in the market. That's why I think the summer slump might be coming to an end as we get into the fall. So all right, that's my market update. Let me just throw one more thing in there, okay? Our local market is not needing substantial inventory. We're needing more buyers. That's what we're needing. We're needing more buyers. You heard about Trump just talking about pitching maybe actually eliminating or changing capital gains tax. I love that. I think that's really good for homeowners and investors because that was put in 1997, and the reality is if you have $250,000 profit, if you just do, if you do your taxes individually, then you're going to be taxed on that $250,000. Well, the reality is if you've owned a home for 10, 15 years, the house value has gone up $250,000, at least in our area, right? So a lot of these people aren't selling because they don't want to deal with the tax. So his idea is it creates inventory. And I do like that idea. I do think it is a good thing, but creating inventory right now is not the immediate, like today's need. Today's need is more buyers, and I would say, and more sellers that have their homes presentable. I would say that's today's need. All right, more buyers, get out there and buy, and sellers, make your houses presentable so the buyers want to buy it. All right, I hope that was a helpful market update for you this August. Have a wonderful rest of your summer, and I'll see you in September.